Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to be here. I would like to tell you that at the afternoon we are going to have a high-level meeting for women leaders in public and political life towards to Beijing Plus 25. Which is the idea? To give visibilization to different issues for women with disabilities and girls with disabilities around the world. And how is the method? Through a declaration that we have worked for some weeks ago until now, and with the support of UN Women as co-organizer of this activity, with myself as a special envoy of the UN Secretary General. And I would like to introduce some of the participants, women leaders, that they are here. Liisa, Kauppinen here, Yetnebersh Nigussie, and Gertrude Oforiwa. And our purpose is to adopt and sign the declaration with different topics about public and political issues and other exercise of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights in relation to women with disabilities. And we need to have our place in next Beijing Plus 25. For this reason, we are preparing this important work with the support, UN Women, I comment, but from other embassies of or embassies in United Nations and the International Disability Alliance too, and UNDESA. And now I would like to invite to you to make questions to our participants of this meeting. But finally, almost 20 women are going to sign this declaration, and at the afternoon we can count with the Vice President of Argentina and a Minister of Canada too. Please. Would you like to make a questions, or you prefer that each one comment their perspective? Please, we are going to begin with Liisa and her perspective about this activity. Liisa, please.
Thank you, María Soledad. I'll stand so everybody will see me better. So thank you, María Soledad. And I'm Liisa Kauppinen, and I have been participating. I think that this whole work on women with disability is very important. It is of utmost importance, and it has long time repercussions. So we need to work for the better future for all the children, the girls and women with disabilities. And I'm so truly happy to be part of this seminar this afternoon and this work. And this is, we who know the situation of the persons with disabilities, and from the perspective of being women and girls, we are the ones who need to be promoting this issue and do our work and try to convince that the UN programs, whether it is the Agenda 2030 and all the other programs, need to take this work as part of their work in the future and start realizing the rights of women and girls with disabilities. And when I have been traveling around the world, I know the situation is very dire in many countries. And if we are thinking about the deaf women, I can say that about 90% of deaf women have never have any access to education. And how will these people get information? For example, a WHO website has very good information about the reproductive health issues and matters and these guidances, but as illiterate, uneducated, there's no way of them getting this information through, so it is not accessible. And we need to work on this, that the information is accessible for all people, and in order to improve their lives and realize their rights. So this work that María Soledad and I and so many other women have been doing within the UN aspect and field and in other fields is something so important, and this work needs to be supported even stronger in the future. And women with disabilities are different individuals. Some of them who can live and act as independently, create their careers, study academic levels, be researchers, be decision makers, be part of the society and make their career. But then we have those women with disabilities who are recipients what the others think or when they remember that these people exist, they just take what they get, but they have no means to go after their own rights because they don't know their rights. Then we have a group of persons with psychosocial disabilities, and their situation is very difficult, as well as sensory disabled women and girls. Their lives are in very difficult situation. And I think that today we need to remember this is very important to be remembered, that the Beijing 25 and onwards we need to put emphasis on this work in all levels. And when I read the declaration that is made for this occasion, I think that is a wonderful work and paper. So that creates a strong basis for our work. So thank you, María Soledad, and all the other women. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Liisa, a great leader, especially from World Federation of the Deaf, a great leader. Thank you very much, Liisa. And now I introduce to Yetnebersh Nigussie. She is a great leader too, an alternative Nobel Prize. We are going to listen to you, Yetnebersh.
Thank you, María Soledad, for this very interesting opportunity. It is really great to be part of this distinguished panel with women who have achieved quite a lot and significantly contributed towards concretizing the disability movement, like Liisa, who has been the chair of the International Disability Alliance, as well as the World Federation of the Deaf at one point. So when women lead, I could see that movements can last longer. When women lead, they can see even those the invisible ones or the those who are not really out there. So it's important at this point that when we talk about Beijing Plus 25, it's the right momentum to call for increased attention and action towards addressing the issue of women and girls with disabilities. As a woman with disability, having 3 girls in Africa, I think investment in me is not about me, but it's about also the future women's movement, because I have got 3 candidates who can lead the women's movement in the future in my house. When we talk about women with disabilities, it's not simply about their education, it's not simply about their employment that we talk about, it's about their woman being that we talk about. So what's a woman being is something very interesting. Women have got their identity as women, and we do share that identity with other women in the world. The woman being is always there, whether we have a disability or not. So our needs to be loved, to be respected, and to be recognized for things that we do and we have the potential to do is really critical. At this point, I think it's a great time to note that the platform is changing. Yeah? We have, for the first time in history, the first women with a disability in the Human Rights Treaty body dealing with the discrimination against women, which is CEDAW. Yeah? That was not an easy gain. It took different battles. It took a different pace to be there. So the World Disability Report clearly indicates that the prevalence of disability is much higher among women than men, which is 92.2% for women, which is high. So 1 in 5 women have a disability, whereas 1 in 7 persons have a disability. So that means there are more women who have a disability than men. This is a huge, huge difference that we can tell. The fact that there are more women with disabilities in this world also makes us call for more room for women with disabilities to lead in life, both in the disability movement as well as also in the women's movement. The fact that it's not 50-50 that we talk about, it's more than that. 19.2 plus 12% is a huge number. It's maybe 65-35 that we're talking about. So women with disabilities are not simply beneficiaries, but also they're actors. We have seen in different places, like women with disabilities who have taken huge responsibilities in governments, internationally, like María, Soledad, yourself, chairing the Human Rights Treaty body of the CRPD committee, and quite a lot of professors and so on. So it's not only about our need that we want to be included, but it's also about our ability to contribute. Recently, through the award we have launched in Light for the World, Her Abilities Award, we have seen there are a lot of women with disabilities achieving quite a lot. But the environment does not allow them to go out and be visible. Their work is hidden. Their work is not spotlighted. So through this award, the Her Abilities Award, we try to spotlight their work in different aspects. So I believe Beijing Plus 25 is not about rationalizing the inclusion of women with disabilities. Rather, it should be about strategizing on how best to tap into this untapped, untouched and unused potential of women with disabilities. So 1 in 5 is a huge number, and we don't have simply only disabilities. We have a lot of diversity abilities that we can be accounted for, we can be called for. So I think Beijing Plus 25 should be concrete enough in terms of actions as to how women and girls with disabilities can be best included. And when we talk about women and girls with disabilities, it's about all women and girls with disabilities. It's not simply the blind and the physically disabled like the usual ones. We care about others like the pastoralists, the indigenous, the psychosocial disabilities, and so on and so forth. Women with disabilities are not homogeneous. We are different, and we can be tapped for the diversity that the world needs to change to the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yetnebersh, Nigussie. And now we are going to introduce Mrs. Gertrude Oforiwa Fefoame. She has a great career in human rights and now is a member of the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Please, Gertrude.
Thank you very much, María. And thank you, distinguished ladies, for what you've shared earlier. I cannot agree with you more. These are critical issues that we are talking about today. There are critical issues that have come along right from the work women with disabilities were in Beijing and contributed and have continued to contribute. Our issues have also been embedded not only on the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but also in other human rights instruments. And this is what emphasizes the importance of our role, the need for recognition, the need and attention to take our issues as right issues and no longer as welfare and no longer as a second generation or a second thought issue. We have become important for us to develop this declaration because over the process and over the years, we haven't seen what we've put in. There are few too many women in leadership positions, either political, public, too few. Too few women and girls with disabilities take active participation in decision making. And the good thoughts and the good views are lost in development. Too few women and girls with disabilities have full, enjoyable, and quality, inclusive education as an example. So there are many numbers we are living out. Not living out long life education. Too many girls and women are continuously being abused and their rights being violated. They go under violence and they don't have the space and they're not given the voice, they're not given the opportunity for remedies. Nobody is listening. And they are viewed as not having the capacity to voice out their issues and their issues not be addressed. Their issues, in most parts, in developing countries, are referred back to the family when a girl with disability has been raped. But this is family matter. What makes it family matter? An abuse of this nature. And there are no opportunities for counseling, for hearing, for reconciling, and getting up the confidence and the nature to grow again. So this is what we're talking about. When we talk about our issues, sometimes the way they are covered, the wrong use of terminologies, the unhealthy, that perpetuates discrimination is what we experience. So instead of we being given the opportunity and being viewed as full members of the community, of the family, of the nation, of the globe, we lose part of our identity. And we lose identity among the women fold. So women without disabilities sometimes tend to discriminate against we and our girls with disabilities. And this is what we're asking that going forward at this level of Beijing plus 25, this long journey, we should not come back to talk about the same stories again. We should find ourselves giving the spaces, giving more spaces in the UN, equal UN. There should be more of us occupying the spaces. We talk about equal continent. There should be more of us taking their places, whether it is Africa Union, whether it is Asia, wherever it is. We should be the space for us in our nation, irrespective of what it is. Whether it is in Denmark, or it is in Ghana, or Ethiopia, or Argentina, or Chile, we need to be given the space. And because we are continuously discriminated, the younger generation don't find themselves in the space. They don't find themselves coming up. They don't find themselves grabbing, and we are losing. In fact, it's not only girls and women with disabilities who are losing. General population is losing because we have more to offer, more to give. I call upon the whole world to join us, to make a difference. There are possibilities ahead. Why don't you join us? Why don't you give it a space? Why don't you allow us in? And why don't you make us build a holistic world for all. Those countries who have not ratified the CRPD, please ratify. Those who are not implementing, please implement. Those who are leaving us in the SDGs, please include us. The possibilities are wide. We are ready to contribute. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to make the world a better world for all. Thank you once more.
Thank you, Gertrude. At the afternoon, we will have the presence of the President of General Assembly, María Fernández Pinoza, the President of the 12th Conference of the States Parties, Ambassador Luis Gallegos, and other authorities. For us, is finish to discrimination to women with disabilities and girls with disabilities, finish to the violence to women and girls with disabilities, and you can see the power of these leaders, but they represent many, many other women and girls with disabilities. For this reason, if you see that 1 billion are persons with disabilities around the world, 60% are women with disabilities. They are not vulnerable themselves. The condition of marginalizations are huge in relation to women with disability, to create a family, to work, the education, and public and political participation. For this reason, we invited to you, if you want, to go at the afternoon to our high-level meeting. And now, if you want to make questions to our participants in this meeting, please. No? It's okay?
A general question for everybody, I guess. Yesterday, the United Nations released their disability inclusion strategy. Can you take the microphone? Oh, sure.
There's a button on the...
You have to press on
Here
the...
we go. Yes, hi everybody, sorry about that. That's a question for everybody, I guess. Yesterday, the United Nations released a disability inclusion strategy that aims to build a framework in how the United Nations itself can improve the participation of persons with disabilities in the work of the United Nations. So this declaration seems very timely, of course, and it's amazing, and I commend you for having such a powerful document to highlight women and girls with disabilities. I was wondering if you could say a few words about how you see this declaration move forward in Beijing 25, and what you hope that it will achieve when you release it this afternoon.
In our view, this declaration is the first step in relation to Beijing Plus 25. But we are going to work constantly thinking in Beijing Plus 25 to open the doors, especially to governments and national institutions of human rights, civil society in general, because we think that the great female movement, it is necessary that they open the door for women with disabilities. And finally, we call our presence in Beijing Plus 25, we call our participation in this important, an historical moment. And I would like that my colleagues speak about this. Please answer. Who? Jetty?
Thank you. This is Liisa. So
Liisa,
thank you, María Soledad. I totally agree with you. And I'd like to add that I think that the women with disabilities, well, they have been so long being oppressed and discriminated against, even though they have knowledge and understanding and skills. And when they are given the opportunity to be educated, they can give to the others, to educate them, to guide them. But women need to know which are the ways, which are the routes, how to how to implement or influence and work towards the better future, how to be part of the decision making. To whom should I be in touch in order that things move forward? So this is the information that we need to educate women with disabilities and girls with disabilities, so they have the knowledge how to work towards the better future. It's very important to have the networks and the connections with the other contemporaries and other women. And we need this kind of equality between men and women. But then again, we are back to the, we need to improve. We, women ourselves, we need to work to get our status getting better and stronger. Not the other people cannot do that without us. So we are the key in a key role in that respect. And I think just one more thing I'd like to add. When I was here when the Agenda 2030 was ratified here. So the human rights, the commissioner of the Human Rights Commission, in his speech said that if the Agenda 2030 fails the women with disabilities, the whole Agenda 2030 fails, because there cannot be the world without women and women with disabilities. So if the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs manages to improve the status of the women with disabilities, then in all fields of life, education, employment, political life, participation, then the world will be better and the SDGs are successful.
Yes, of
Yes,
course,
I can,
of course.
I can add a bit on the, the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy is obviously an important tool and very timely to come in. So I would like to commend the Secretary General and also his special envoy on this matter, because the UN was there trying to map out what is needed to be done, but there was no consensus, there was no roadmap for the UN itself how to do it, yeah? So as Secretary General himself stated yesterday, this is a strategy for actions, yeah? Not for words. So this is, for me, a transition from words to deeds. Huh? So now the UN has a GPS on how to go as to where they want to go. We have heard repeatedly that they envision an inclusive society where no one is left behind. Yeah? So there was no a clear map as to how to get to that inclusive society, inclusive world where everyone is included, yeah? Where no one is left behind. So it's important that we have the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy, which will definitely guide the UN entities, the 16 UN entities, as indicated yesterday, as to how to get there. So it's an action map which will take us to the world where we want to be. And UN Women is one of the entities that is part of this strategy. So we would hope that at least programs run by UN Women and other UN agencies, in particular targeting women in general, will be also responsive and inclusive of women with disabilities. This is the kind of expectation we have. So with this disability inclusion strategy, we expect better implementation and action. Yeah, but that doesn't mean the game is over. Yeah, we know, okay, and we're happy that now everybody is convinced, including the UN, that disability inclusion is a must and is a right. Huh? And now they are ready, or at least they have their GPS on how to get there. But persons with disabilities and their representative organizations are there to build the capacity to serve as experts of how this can be achieved. So the slogan, nothing about us without us, will still remain important, serving as the mantra of the movement. And we would be happy that the journey is going to be started. At least the GPS is defined. We know how to go as to where we want to go. That's a clear sign. But in the meantime, we have to make sure that groups, invisible groups like those women and girls with disabilities, are not left behind in this GPS, are not bypassed in this design. So I was so happy to hear about the powerful statement by the Secretary General, and in which he really made a difference in getting this strategy on. But how many entities will be using this GPS and will be starting on the journey is something that we will view and we need to monitor carefully.
Gertrude?
Yes, thank you very much. So, yes, my understanding of the question is the link between the strategy that was launched today and the declaration we are working on. One fundamental thing is that they are both embedded in the human rights approach. That is important for us to note, and as some of my colleagues have already alluded to. So, it gives us the opportunity to make a shift or continue. So those who have not yet made the shift is a chance to make the shift. And those who are on the curve of making the shift to adapt, to accelerate the overall inclusion, and remembering that no entity needs to be left behind. So we are very happy and yet very concerned that it doesn't come to be one of those that is worked on and left to be touched, maybe never again. So for us, as women with disabilities, what it gives us is to add on our strategy of influencing together with our allies. So for instance, I am with the CRPD committee, but I also work with Sightsavers as a global advocacy advisor. And in such work, we work with our partners at the national and local level to understand this and to build an influencing capacity to engage states who are the duty bearers in ensuring that these issues are implemented. So UNDP and its entities, they come down to our nations as UNDP. They fall into the continental arena. We are building gradually. And in this, girls and women will not be left out. And we expect that inclusion will be fully adhered to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to add that the strategy of the Secretary General is begin inside United Nations, but to create synergies around the world with the inclusion in the system of United Nations, but a good example for different countries around the world. Finally, I would like to say that women with disabilities, women and girls with disabilities are the owner of our destiny. Another question? No? No? Liisa? Liisa?
Sorry, I would like to add that there was mention about the technology and digitalization, and I think that is a very important question also to touch upon, because the world changes so fast. The services are digitalized more and more, so there are new kinds of obstacles in the way for us. But the technology also serves as new possibilities to solve these problems. But in this field, it's also that we are also taking part of this, that we are not just the targets or the objectives for who to provide the services, but we need to be active partners in that field also. And when we're talking about services designing or technology and the services and digitalization, women and girls with disabilities need to be part of that field also, making sure that the services and everything is suitable for us all. But of course, the UN has the responsibility to make sure that the services and the governments to make sure the services are available and accessible for everybody. And I do like the digitalization, because I think this is for us deaf people, it has brought us so many new forums and devices and solutions to in the communications field, etc. Thank you.
And thank you, Liisa. Finally, I ask a last brief sentence of each one of these participants, Gertrude, Yetnebersh, and Liisa. Brief last sentence.
Thank you very much. My last sentence is, to have the full inclusion, we are on a journey, and we invite all to join eyes to fight so that we get the optimum for everybody's benefit. Girls and women with disabilities are ready and need to be part of the movement and society. The state is the duty bearer to address any discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I would still stress the need for leading by example of the UN, as highlighted by the Secretary General. The UN needs to live its words, to walk its talk in terms of really becoming inclusive. And through this UN Disability Inclusion Strategy, we would expect the UN women and other actors within the UN make sure that we don't talk about why it's important to include women and girls with disabilities after Beijing Plus 25. Rather, the dialogue and the discourse need to focus on how women and girls with disabilities can be best included. That way we can come closer to a world where all women and girls with disabilities, regardless of where they live, regardless of what their age is, are fully included as embedded in the SDG 5 of the Agenda 2030.
Thank you, Yetnebersh. And a brief sentence from Liisa.
Yes, I think we need the kind of conditions to act and work in all over the world, that the rights of persons with disabilities are implemented and realized in everyday life. We know there are wars and other disaster situations that persons with disabilities are easily left out in those dire situations. So we need that the girls and women, we need to remember that we can be part of the making the world peace through our work, through our possibilities and skills. So through love, we can make a better world.
Thank you, Liisa. And finally, my sentence is full human rights and full development for women and girls with disabilities. And we call to platform of Beijing Plus 25 to have our place in this important moment. Thank you very much.